Noah was born as the 13th son in the royal family, as one of the 13 imperial princes born from the loins of the king. He opens up his eyes to find a kindly woman looking down at him and wonders whether this person is his mother or just some maid. But before he could figure that out, the face of an old bearded man which turns out to be his father, and the king comes near him to inspect him from top to bottom. The king mentions that Noah seems to have taken after his mother, and his mother immediately shies away, claiming that his eyes and eyebrows look just like that of the king. Noah notices that he can see his own stats, but nothing seems to make sense for him just yet. Suddenly, one of the court mages walks up and holds him delicately in his arms before announcing to the king that Noah has the magical affinity of water. The king laughs at that merrily, claiming that when Noah comes of age, he will be given the lands of southern kingdoms where most of the water mage clans live so that he can rule over them justly. With that, the king asks the court mage to have a look at Noah's stats. But the moment his stats are revealed, the entire court goes silent, while even the king has trouble believing his own eyes. One of the people in the court scream that it's a miracle, while the others join the chant, which confuses Noah, who then checks his own stats, only to realize that he has the stats of an SS-ranked water mage, which is unheard of, let alone attaining it at birth. 6 years pass by after that day, and Noah has grown up to be a healthy young lad. He slowly learnt about the kingdom of mirrors, which his father rules over, where things have been calm for several decades, now as people live peacefully without any war. The king is well loved by the general public, as are his sons, who are adored by the locals as well as the noble families of the country. But Noah is not really interested in the political intrigue of the kingdom, as he has realized something in the past 6 years about himself. It turns out that he has a special gift which no one else is aware of. He can leech off the XP of his subordinates, which means that the more maids he has, the stronger he can become. This also means that unlike other people who have a cap on their levels, Noah can rank up indefinitely and become the strongest mage on the planet. His maids seem to be completely loyal to him, as they discuss how even at the age of 6, Noah behaves more like an adult than a young kid. He soon goes on to the dining room for some breakfast and thinks about how his abilities and skills are pretty limited at this point because of his young age, but if he keeps training, he should continue to grow at a rapid pace and outshine his older brothers as well. His thoughts are broken by a beautiful maid named Evelyn, who tells him that the crown prince of the kingdom and the 4th prince have both come to visit him. Noah decides to quickly wrap up his breakfast, as even though they are his brothers, he shouldn't make the crown prince to the entire kingdom wait. He soon enters the guest room and goes to one knee as he welcomes his older brothers, the crown prince Albert and the 4th prince Henry. Albert looks at Noah with cold eyes, asking where he was, while Henry greets him more warmly, claiming that Noah seems to be growing into a courteous young man. Albert claims that Noah will make a fine chancellor one day and tells him that he has a present for Noah. He claps his hands, and immediately a terrified servant enters the room carrying a small coffin into the room as it emanates a deadly aura. Noah is confused about such a weird present, but Albert orders the servant to open the coffin, which he reluctantly is forced to do. The moment he opens the coffin, an aura of dead and dying men erupts into the room, which Noah can clearly feel as he stares at the sword inside the coffin, wondering what the hell did he just feel. Before he had a chance to regain his composure, Albert tells him to pick it up and see how it feels. Noah realizes that he doesn't really want to handle the blade, but considering that it's a gift from the royal prince, he can't really refuse and is forced to pick it up. He grabs the sword gently and picks it up, even though it's too big for his tiny body right now. Albert smiles and tells Noah that he knew Noah could do it, and finally explains that this blade is a special sword designed for water mages to wield and is known as Leviathan. He also reveals that before him, more than 120 people have tried holding it, but none survive to tell the tale. This scares him, and he almost drops the shiny blade. But Henry tells him not to worry, as the curse of this sword is so strong that he would have died the moment he touched it, if the sword refused to accept him. With that, Albert and Henry both get up to leave, while Noah bows down, thinking to himself how this despicable crown prince, who is unfortunately his own older brother, was testing him with such a dangerous task for absolutely no reason. But he knows that if he said it out loud, it would mean his head on a spike. Later that evening, while Noah was getting ready for bed, he notices that one of his maids seemed to be very tense, so he asks her whether she is okay. Zoe the maid at first hesitates, but when Noah pushes for the truth, she immediately goes to one knee, claiming that she wants some time off as there has been a flood in her village and everything is swept away. His family is starving, and she plans to sell her body in the red light district in hopes of collecting enough money to help her family. Noah tells her to stop talking, claiming that Zoe is his personal maid and he can't let her go for so long. He tells her to bring her mother to the estate and he will give her the job of the rear gate closer and pay her $5,000 a month. Zoe is confused at this and claims that she has never heard of any position like this, and even then the salary seems to be incredibly high. Noah tells her not to worry about that and also tells her that there is an empty house in the western outskirts of the capital which she can occupy and live in with her mother. Zoe can't believe her ears and starts tearing up when Dylan, the house butler, comes out and asks Noah whether he wanted anything. Noah asks him whether he is aware of the flooding in Zoe's hometown and tells him to buy as much land as possible in that area. Dylan is confused since that would be a bad investment. But Noah tells him that they need to protect the people in need there, as if they don't intervene a bunch of villains will occupy that land and start squatting. Dylan is shocked at this, and Noah asks what's wrong. But Dylan replies that he is just surprised at how well Noah is managing the situation with the foresight of an experienced man, considering he has never experienced anything like this before. Noah thinks about how he has seen more than his fair share of destruction in his previous life, but he obviously cannot reveal that to anyone. Dylan replies that according to his estimation, the entire land should cost roughly $70 million, which shocks Zoe. Even Noah knows that it is a very huge amount. His entire group of retainers earn roughly $80,000 a year. He himself has some $50 million in funds from taxes and gifts from his brothers. But that still leaves $20 million. He turns and asks Dylan about the land that they have in the south of the capital and claims that they will have to sell that land. Dylan is shocked and advises Noah against it since that land was a gift from his father, the king himself, and selling that land would be unimaginably rude to his own imperial family. Noah tells him not to worry about all that as he will deal with his own father later, and tells them that nobles have the duty to sacrifice themselves in order to bring peace and happiness amongst their subjects. More than that, he also knows that a noble who plays the martyr is loved by the public, which might come in handy sooner or later. Dylan bows down to him and tells him that he will deal with everything before leaving to make all the necessary preparations. The next morning, Noah gets ready with his army of maids to prepare everything for an inspection of the flooded area, when he gets called out by the fourth Prince Henry. He immediately runs up to him with a warm greeting, apologizing for not coming earlier, but Henry tells him not to worry about it and asks where exactly is Noah planning to go. Noah replies that there is a region named Dasa, which has completely been flooded, and he aims to buy some land there and is planning to inspect the area to assess damage. Henry notices the sword given to him by Albert and asks him whether he is planning to use that during his visit. Noah replies that he is carrying it just in case he has to use it, but he is not sure yet, since he hasn't felt any different about it since his first encounter. Henry takes Noah away from the prying eyes and tells him that he was a little worried about that sword and Albert's sudden generosity, so he did some research on his own and found out that the sword seems to have a mind of its own and can only be controlled by someone who it acknowledges as its true master. Noah remembers the vision he had about all the previous people who tried mastering it, and realizes that this sword is basically like a mad dog, and he will have to earn its ownership before he can truly master it. Henry tells him to be careful and advises against using it unless absolutely necessary, as he has a bad feeling that the sword will take his life, just as it has taken hundreds of people before him. With that bit of warning, Noah leaves for the region of Dasa, and is surprised to see the level of destruction caused by the floods. He tells Dylan to find out the government office nearby and figure out the deeds of these lands, and then he moves into the village alongside Zoe to get a better idea of what's happening on the ground. He notices men in crudely made shelters rounding up to get the government relief food, which makes him a little happy, but that disappears completely when he takes a bite of the shitty porridge being served to them. He can't believe how can the government have such low standards and was going to ask for the local official of this area, when luckily, the local official, named Lord Garl, enters the area for an inspection. Noah expected him to take actions against the terrible quality of food, but to his surprise, the man blocked his nose and took a look at the porridge before claiming that it was sufficient, which made the cooks happy, who are basically taking advantage of the situation. The chief cook tells him that his food is ready at the mansion, and Garl immediately decides to leave for the feast which was awaiting him. Noah couldn't stand this and immediately goes ahead to confront the man. He calls Garl a corrupt little bastard with a tiny peepee, which hits him where it hurts the most, and the man with the fragile ego immediately pulls a sword at Noah. Noah immediately calls for the sword Leviathan that Albert gave him, hoping that it would kill him, and the sword immediately flies towards him. At first he thought that the sword would just obey him, But he suddenly realizes the true strength of the sword as it starts resisting him, burning him with its powerful sinister aura. Noah, however, refuses to back off and continues on and finally manages to overcome the sword, taking control of the legendary blade once and for all. Once that was done, Garl had no chance, as Noah easily parried his attack and decided that the sentence for cheating the locals during a time of disaster is nothing other than death. With one swift slash, Noah cleaved the head clean off, shocking everyone in the area. Immediately, the guards start surrounding them, and he would have gotten lynched. But he smashes the sword in the ground, creating an incredibly deep hole in the earth, shocking everyone. The chaos attracted the attention of the knight named Rowan, who was recently appointed as the manager of this area, and he immediately recognizes Noah and goes down to his knee. Everyone was surprised, but they soon follow suit, taking a knee in front of him, while Noah tells Rowan that the first thing he needs to do is to make sure everyone here gets good food. And Rowan immediately apologizes for his oversight and gets on the task. After he returns, Noah gets immediately called down to the capital by his father, where he expected to get scolded. But to his surprise, his father praised him for taking the decisions when he took them and checks his stats again, which has grown since the last time he saw them. He thanks Noah for his help and tells him that he will need him to continue aiding him in ruling this kingdom. A couple days pass by, but Noah stays in the capital of the city, as this city is the beating heart of the entire kingdom and the most prosperous place by far, where loads of talented people come to find work. His plan is to bag one of these talented people for himself so that he can increase his own stats and quickly become a force to be reckoned with. His first candidate is a young girl that he has heard about who is supposed to be an incredible singer who has recently been in the talks as a brilliant up-and-comer. He finds out the theater that she is going to perform at and takes a seat alongside Zoe to see whether she is worth the talks or not. Soon, a young girl with a top hat named Ollie emerges on the stage and gets ready to perform in front of an audience. She soon starts singing, and immediately Noah is mesmerized with her voice. He knows that he is not the best technical singer that he has ever heard of, but she is definitely the singer who seems to really love her craft a lot. He thinks that with the right training and guidance, she can achieve greatness and starts considering taking her under his wing. Before the performance could even end though, a bunch of goons break inside the theater and shout at Ollie to shut her dumb ass up. The entire audience hold their breath, wondering what these villains want, while Ollie stands there scared while the goons make their way towards the stage. One of the workers tries to intervene, but the fatty immediately pushes him aside before jumping on the stage itself. He screams at her to pay up, claiming that singing on these stages won't get her enough money to pay her father's debts. She shivers as she tells him to please let her go, as she is trying to earn money and will pay them soon. But the fatty tells her that this is a garbage way of making money, and if she wants to earn loads of money quick and easy, she needs to start a social media channel and upload thirst traps there or sell feed pics, and maybe her bath water. She tells him that she is a respected girl and would never swoop down to do things like that. But the fatty threatens to break both her legs if she doesn't do as he says. That's when Noah decides to intervene and tells Fatty to step away from the girl immediately. The fatty turns around and tells Noah to go back to her mom's lap and drink some milk, or he will beat the crap out of him. Noah doesn't care though. He jumps down from the seat and starts walking towards the stage, telling Fatty that it's illegal to make children assume their parents' law by the decree of the imperial law. Moreover, it's also illegal to force people to sell their bodies in order to pay any sort of debts. The fatty angrily grabs him by the collar and lifts him up in the air, claiming that today is Noah's last day on Earth. But he doesn't really know who he is talking to. With the flick of his fingers, Noah creates a menacing purple aura that knocks all three of the goons to the ground, while Noah takes out his sword and points it at the fatty. The goons realize that they might be outmatched at this point, so they immediately tuck their tails between their legs and immediately start running away. Zoe goes towards the injured worker and helps him up, while Noah tells him that he should send them to him if they ever come back to this place to harass anyone. Zoe hands him a business card, and the worker is shocked to see that the boy in front of them is actually a prince of this kingdom. Noah doesn't really care about the fanfare though, and turns around towards Ollie and asks what her monthly expenses are. She thinks about it for a while, considering the fact that she also has to deal with her mother's treatment, and replies that her monthly expenses should be around $600. Noah tells her that he will pay her $2,500 every month so that she can work on her singing and get better. She is shocked to hear that and can't really believe her own ears, while Noah tells her that her salary would also increase as she gets better. With that, he tells her to complete the song, as he would love to hear how it ends, and returns back to his seat. Later that evening, when he returned back to his own home, he was greeted by his maids when he suddenly notices that the goons from the afternoon are bowing their heads to the ground, begging an audience so that they can apologize. He knows that only now did they realize that he was the prince of the kingdom, but he decides not to entertain them and tells her maid to turn them away, claiming that a prince does not have time to meet with people randomly. Just then, his older brother Henry also arrives, claiming that he has made the right decision as he would devalue his own authority as a prince if he talks to these plebs anytime they want to. Noah tells him that it was not the only reason why he decided to turn them away and explains that he wants them to think that he is still really angry about the stunt they pulled with the girl today, and that might scare them enough to not try and bother her again. Henry asks who this girl is and why does he seem so invested in her. He claims that he is a really good singer and he thinks that she can be an asset for the kingdom if she keeps improving herself. Henry smiles, claiming that he is very young, but still thinks about the complexities of the situation like an adult. He mentions that Gary is close to his age, but he acts like a total child and is nowhere as smart as him. Noah politely replies that Gary would also start understanding the situation soon enough. He knows that even though he calls them his brothers, Henry and Gary are true blood related brothers since they are from the same mother, while he has a different mother. Henry then turns the conversation towards his sword, claiming that he didn't really think it possible, but Noah seriously seems to have mastered the sword. He then asks where exactly is the sword and how does he even carry it as it is supposed to be too big for him anyways. Noah gets up and shows how he does it as he quickly uses his magic to summon the sword right in front of his brother. Henry was shocked as this was the first time he saw someone pull things out of their ass and asks how far in did he put it and whether it hurt. Noah tells him that it's nothing like that and he simply shrinks the sword to a small size and then hides it right inside his own sleeve. Henry is left speechless and sits back down with a thud, claiming with a sigh that Noah simply amazes him since that sword was thought to be cursed and put away with all the other national treasures for over 2 centuries at this point, and no one in written history is known to have conquered that blade. Later that night, Noah decides to go to a celebration that he was invited to and spots the goons still on the ground. The fatty gets enraged once again since he keeps getting ignored and screams that he can kill him anywhere he wants, so he shouldn't try to act all high and mighty. In retaliation, Noah simply unleashes a tiny amount of energy from his sword, which immediately brings the fatty down to his knees once again. Noah then gets into the carriage and soon arrives at his destination, where an old man named Ray welcomes him inside. The ballroom immediately starts buzzing with excitement as the news of the 13th prince in the ballroom starts stirring. Ray asks Noah about the sword that he is carrying, and he replies that it's the legendary sword which was thought to be cursed, and it was gifted to him by the Crown Prince Albert. This immediately impresses everyone in the room as they start talking about how getting a personal gift from the Crown Prince is a very big deal. One of the men there with a fragile ego immediately spouts some nonsense about how the sword must be a replica toy, not realizing that he was speaking so loudly that everyone in the room could hear it. The chatter of the room dies down completely as everyone looks at Noah while the guy starts pissing his pants, wondering what's going to happen now. Noah doesn't even lift a finger, but suddenly a deathly aura erupts from his sword and covers the entire room, putting them in a trance. Noah immediately tells the sword to stop and the aura goes away, while Ray is surprised by the powers, claiming that everyone in the room felt a little closer to death. A little while later, he sits down on a small throne while everyone in the room walk up to him to pay their homage and gain his favor. All of them felt pretty boring to him, but then finally a blonde man named Alan walks up and introduces himself and his adopted daughter Cindy. The girl seemed alert by the presence of Noah, but Noah decided to ignore that and asks how did he come to adopt her. Alan explains that he originally bought her from a slave market, but she showed a lot of will and resolve and was a really quick learner while being socially intelligent. Since he didn't have any kids of his own, he decided to adopt her as her own daughter. Noah smiles at him, claiming that he loves stories like this and invites the duo back to his mansion to chat some more. Alan seemed really pleased by the fact that only he was acknowledged amongst them all. But Noah tells Ray that the main reason why he acknowledged them is because Cindy is somehow aware of his power. He demonstrates by releasing a little bit of energy from his sword, but Cindy immediately recognizes that and turns around to make sure they were not going to get attacked. A couple days pass by since that incident when one day while Noah was out on a stroll, he meets with the 8th Prince Oscar, who decides to take a walk with him through the market and try to find some interesting stuff. While looking through a bunch of crap, Noah notices a grimoire and once he picks it up, it suddenly changes on of his stats to S ranked. He immediately gets interested and buys it, but notices his sword seems to be reacting to it. Oscar seems to recognizes the book as a magical tome made by some sorcerer long ago. But the book suddenly opens up and releases a huge monster out in the open. Oscar tells Noah to back off and go to safety, but Noah simply takes out his sword and squares up to the demon. He tries to slice through the magical being but fails for the first time. That's when he decides to use a bit of extra magic with his next slice and aims it upwards so he doesn't destroy anything else. With that, the magical creature ceases to exist while Oscar stands there wondering how strong is his little brother at this point. Watching this amazing feat, one of the shopkeepers run out and bow to the ground, requesting Noah to have a look at an item he has in his shop which might as well be a treasure. He takes the princes back to his shop and shows them a magical ring, claiming that this ring has yet to accept anyone as the owner and asks Noah to try it. Noah puts the ring on his thumb and immediately the magic activates and his entire body gets covered with a beautiful plate of armor. The shopkeeper is shocked, but Noah really likes it and buys it at that very instant. But Oscar refuses to let him pay for it, claiming that it will be a gift to him from his side. With that out of the way, he decides to head back to the theater to watch Ali sing. But the moment he gets out the carriage, Fatty attacks him with a sword. Noah immediately uses a shield in his ring to block the attack, while the carriage driver subdues the Fatty to the ground and captures him. Noah doesn't really care about it at this point and enters the auditorium to watch Ali on stage, dealing with two drunk men who are fighting with each other over her. Noah intervenes and uses his magic to destroy their clothes, after which they run away from the theater. He then calls the owner in and tells him that he is disappointed with the security or the lack thereof in this theater and offers him to buy the entire place. The owner was a little hesitant, but Zoe immediately produces $100,000 out of her ass, which gives the owner all the motivation he needed and he immediately sells it. Zoe thanks the prince, claiming that she can never repay the debt she owes him, but he tells her to focus on singing as he wants her to sing in front of the king one day. With that, he sits back down in the audience as Ollie begins one of her songs specially for him. The next day, all of Noah's maids help him get ready and then tell him that he has an appointment today, as Noah reads the request for a meeting from a guy named Dead, who is the governor of the region of Hulljoy that falls in Noah's domain. He decides to have a good chat with him about the current status of his territory. Noah tells the maids to let the guy in and then starts drip farming for no reason. Soon, Dead is kneeling in front of Noah as he introduces himself as the Governor General of Hulljoy. He recites the entire formal speech that everyone does while licking the boots of royals, but Noah tells him to skip the part and get a seat. Once they sit down, Noah remarks that they have met before too, and Dead affirms, saying that he came to greet him about 18 months ago when he was appointed the Governor of Hulljoy by the Emperor himself. Noah asks him how is his job going currently, especially since there was a huge flood in Hulljoy, and Dead is the one who has to manage things after it. The gloomy expression on Dead's face gives Noah his answer, and he knows that things are not good. Hulljoy is one of the major food grain producing areas of the empire, but it is quite vulnerable to flooding, just like the DMs of any decent looking girl on social media. That is why the emperor appointed Dead as its governor, because he comes from the land of water mages, and everyone thought he would be able to do something about the flooding situation. Noah decides to learn the problems he faces before judging him and asks what is the issue. Dead replies that they don't have any funding, and without money, nothing can be done. Noah can't believe this because it was an imperial order to issue funds to rebuild Hulljoy, and Dead replies that the Home Ministry is sitting on their funds, and they always make some excuses whenever he tries withdrawing those funds. Noah understands the entire situation now, and he immediately tells Dead to follow him to the house of Finance Minister Maverick, who is busy eating juicy steak for breakfast. He keeps stuffing his wrinkled mouth as he asks what brings a prince to see him, and Noah gets to business right away. He asks the old bastard why is he not giving Dead the money he needs to rebuild Hulljoy, and Maverick says that he has a good reason for that. Noah warns him that if he says that a kid won't understand the reason, he will make him eat the steak from his ass, and the old fatty is annoyed by it. But he can't talk back against a prince. He agrees to explain his reasons and says that Hulljoy suffered from severe floods, so the emperor showed his grace and exempted them from paying any tax for the year. He says that they should just use the money they saved from not paying taxes to rebuild them, and Noah immediately calls the minister out on his bullshit. He reminds him that the emperor canceled taxes because the people of Hulljoy didn't have any money to pay it. He asks Maverick how dare he talk like the people of Hulljoy have money, and then asks if he is underestimating him because he is a kid. Maverick stammers on hearing this and decides to change his story. He says that the Ministry of Finance can't spare any money for rebuilding Hulljoy right now, because they are building a summer retreat for the Emperor. He tries to convince Noah that since the Emperor is going to use the summer retreat, it must be grand, and they are building an entire city around to give him the level of luxury he deserves. Dead thinks that all hopes are lost because they cannot say anything when the Emperor's name gets involved. But he forgets that Noah is literally the Emperor's son. He orders the old bastard to stop talking out of his ass, because he is disrespecting the Emperor by saying that he wants a luxurious summer villa when his people are struggling to stay alive. Maverick knows that if he is proven guilty of lying about the Emperor, his entire family will be unalived with him, and he immediately falls to his knees, telling Noah that he is misunderstanding the situation. He promises that he will immediately distribute the funds to Hulljoy and orders his servants to get on the task urgently. Noah returns to calmly sipping his tea after winning the battle of wits against Maverick, and Dead is truly impressed by his negotiation skills. He begins glazing Noah, saying that he has brilliant skills and he caught a seasoned liar's contradictions with ease. He apologizes for trying to use him to get funds and falls on the ground to grovel. Noah also realizes that Dead was just trying to use his influence as a prince to strong-arm the minister into giving him money. But he doesn't mind that because he would have helped his people either way. After getting the funds, Dead immediately leaves to rebuild his territory. And just then, a messenger arrives from the palace, saying that the Emperor has summoned Noah urgently. Noah wastes no time in heading back to the palace and greets his dad, who is feeding pigeons to relax his mind. The Emperor starts the conversation by praising Noah for completely defeating the greedy finance minister with his wit, and Noah is dumbfounded that his father knows of things that just happened. His doubts are so loud that the Emperor can guess them already, and he tells his son that information is the greatest weapon he can have, and he needs to keep it polished. Noah internalizes that advice, and then says that he just did the natural thing by subduing the finance minister. The Emperor replies that doing the right thing is not easy for most people because they get swayed by flattery and lose track of what is right. He turns around and gives Noah a head pat, saying that he is already better than most people in the world at the age of 6. He then asks Noah to rise, and commends on his ability to master the legendary sword Leviathan, whose dark history terrifies everyone who tries to wield it. Noah realizes how dangerous the sword is after seeing numerous examples, and then his father tells him that he should also learn the techniques to wield his weapon properly. For that purpose, he has arranged a swordsmanship instructor for him. Immediately, a seasoned knight named Damien kneels before the Emperor and Noah. The Emperor introduces him as the greatest swordsman in the Empire and asks Noah to learn well from him. Damien immediately requests the Emperor's permission for a bout with the prince, because he wants to see his raw skill and potential before taking him up as a student. The Emperor grants permission to him, and Noah realizes that his father trusts Damien completely. Damien draws his huge sword and tells Noah to attack him however he wants. Noah takes his stance, but then his sword starts acting up. He tries to subdue it and attacks Damien, who is impressed by his first strike. Noah feels the memories of the past users of Leviathan flowing into his mind, and he uses those memories to disarm Damien within a few blows. The knight accepts defeat and tells the Emperor that he can't teach anything to Noah, since his technique is already on par with a swordmaster. The Emperor proudly laughs on hearing this, and he decides to reward Noah's skill by making him the head judge of this year's knight selection exam. Noah gladly accepts the responsibility, because he knows that all the skilled warriors from the Empire take part in the exam, because the winner can rise up to the rank of nobility. He knows that the first job of the winner is to become the head judge's subordinate, and he feels that he can become even stronger with a strong warrior under his command. The Emperor then asks Noah if he wants to hold the exam in elimination mode or in league format. However, instead of giving an answer to this, Noah makes a surprising request. He wants to omit the regional preliminary round, and instead hold the entire exam in the capital, so that he can judge all the warriors himself and make sure no talented warrior is eliminated for unjust reasons. The Emperor tells him to do whatever he wants, and with that, Noah returns home. He talks to Zoe about the knight selection exam and asks if there is a candidate in her village too. She affirms, saying that they send the same guy to the exam each year, hoping that he will bring glory to their village. Noah tells her that there are no prelims this year, so they can send more guys. But talent is not the problem. Zoe timidly tells Noah that they only send one guy because that is all they can afford even after opening a GoFundMe for the guy. She says that everything is expensive in the capital, from meals to lodging, and no one has money for that. Noah decides to solve that issue as well. declaring that he will cover the expenses of all the participants so that no talented warrior loses even before fighting. He immediately summons Dylan and tells him to buy all the empty houses in the capital, and if that is not enough to accommodate all the participants, he orders him to build some dormitories. As for the issue of food, Noah tells the butler to talk to all the merchants they have connections to, and he personally goes to talk to Alan about the matter as well. Alan gives him an estimate, but Noah can tell that he has given him a huge discount that would leave him with a loss. He asks the reason behind that, and Alan politely says that they can't refuse a request from the 13th prince. That sort of flattery is not going to work on Noah, and he claims that no merchant gives away their money for no reason. Alan is surprised that Noah caught his ulterior motives and tells him that there is an exam to select servants for the royal palace that is held on the same scale at the knight selection exam. He claims that he wants to know what sort of people are selected there, and Noah immediately becomes familiar with his game. He realizes that Alan wants to put a girl in the palace so that she can give him any new information that circulates there. On top of that, if the king becomes the girl's sugar daddy, Alan can rake in a lot of profit. Alan suddenly gets nervous and tells Noah that his request is not related to this matter, because he has already sent a gift for the servant selection exam matter to his mansion. Noah is impressed that Alan knows how to please people, and he decides to support him. He says that if it is a girl that he approves of, he will surely recommend her to work at the palace. Alan is super excited on hearing this, but Noah tells him to hold his horses because the girls need to please his demands fully. Alan is glad to accept his condition and signals to Cindy, saying that he will select a girl that will meet all his demands. He then kneels before Noah, saying that he is deeply grateful that a prince graces an ordinary merchant like him with his kindness and keen observation, and he would like to add the crest of the 13th prince to his stores to prove his loyalty to him. Noah is pleased to hear that, but he warns Alan that he will not forgive any sort of betrayal. Noah returns home with that, and finds that his stats have increased after taking Alan as a subordinate. But then suddenly, he notices one of his stats going down, and the SS rank on his water attribute turns to a plain S rank. Noah becomes worried that something might have happened in his territory of Almeria, and he tells Zoe to immediately head to the palace because he needs to meet the Emperor. She relays his order to the carriage driver, and Noah is in front of the Emperor minutes later. He tells him that something bad has happened in Almeria, and the tone of the Emperor's response makes him realize that he is already aware of it. The Emperor tells him that he just has an idea that something is wrong, but there is no proof yet. Just then, a servant comes there and whispers something in his ears, confirming his doubts. The Emperor tells Noah that he did a great job in figuring out that something is wrong, because there is a rebellion in Almeria. He asks Noah how big does he think it is at the moment, and seeing that only one of his skills dropped in value, Noah figures that it is not a large rebellion at the moment. The king affirms that and says that they have spotted around 5,000 rebels in Almeria. He asks Noah if he has any plans to put that rebellion down himself, and he says that it will not be possible for him because he is young and has no experience in combat, and he doesn't know if the soldiers will obey him sincerely. He suggests that the Emperor send another prince to subdue the rebellion, and the old man is surprised at Noah's rational approach to this sensitive issue. He decides to support his decision and asks if he would nominate anyone to wipe out the rebels. Noah suggests that Henry would be the best person for this job, because he trusts his judgment. The Emperor sends Henry with Noah to suppress the rebels, and Henry asks Noah if he is sure that he wants someone else to take the glory, because merit in the battlefield will help him out in the future. Noah says that he needs experience to lead his soldiers, and he doesn't want them to die in vain because of his faulty leadership. Just then, his sword reacts to some hostility, and Noah immediately orders the carriage to be stopped. He figures out that some enemies are after his life, and decides to face them head-on instead of relying on his brother's help. He jumps out of the carriage, and the torches alongside the route go off. The next moment, water pillars erupt from the ground to attack him from all sides. But Noah blocks them all by transforming Leviathan into a shield. He realizes that the water-using attackers must be the rebels from Almeria, and immediately takes them down with his skilled swordplay. Henry is impressed by his growth, and says that it would have been nice if they got to interrogate these bastards. Noah tells him that they can still do it because he didn't kill them, and only knocked them out with his sword's aura. Henry is once more impressed by his brother, and then says that he had heard the rebels had mostly cavalrymen, so he wasn't expecting any assassins. Hearing that statement makes Noah realize something is wrong, because they don't have good war horses in Almeria. The next day, he goes to Alan and tells him the top secret that there has been a rebellion in Almeria. He gives Alan $10,000 to buy all the horse feed in the market immediately, because he has already figured out that the rebels bought the war horses from someone else, but they need to buy feed from nearby markets itself. If they can't buy any, they will not be able to get enough feed to sustain their horses even after looting the civilians, and that way, they will become significantly weaker in battle. Soon after that, the Emperor calls Noah to tell him that he put his men to interrogate the assassins, and they managed to get some useful information out of them. The assassins were not aiming to kill Noah, but instead, they wanted to kidnap him and use him as a bargaining chip. However, Noah tells his daddy that any assassin who spills the beans so easily is most probably lying. The Emperor is proud that his son has common sense beyond his years, but he tells him not to worry because he has a way to know if someone is lying or not. Noah is not really interested in the art of torture, so he decides to believe what the Emperor is saying. The Emperor then praises Noah for quickly dealing with the rebels, because if he got caught, they would have a hard time dealing with the rebels. On top of that, he is happy that Noah thought of the strategy to focus on the horses of the rebel army. Noah's eyes widen in shock because he gave Alan the order to buy horse feed just minutes ago, and his father already knows this. The Emperor continues praising Noah, saying that anyone would have thought of the starvation strategy, and the Crown Prince Albert actually wanted to starve the rebels to make an example of them. However, Noah decided to focus on their horses to reduce their strength, and he used his own money for that. The Emperor pats his shoulder, telling him that he has great ideas and the courage to act on them quickly, which is not easy to do. Noah feels a new kink awakening inside him after getting praised by Daddy, and then the Emperor decides to reward him for his brilliant thinking. He allows Noah to add a sword to his crest, which is a bigger reward than you might think. In a nation of warriors, no one can add a sword to their crest without the Emperor's permission, and if they do so, they might be executed. Meanwhile, getting the Emperor's approval to include a flag in the crest is a great honor for anyone, and Noah tries his best to hide his excitement on getting this great reward. A little later that day, Alan comes to visit Noah, who walks towards him with his baby steps and takes a couple minutes to reach him. Noah says that he is early, and Alan replies that he knows all the types of feed that is sold in the market, and also the routes it is transported through, so buying all of it won't be difficult. However, he is worried that Karfun, the leader of rebels, is a ruthless man who won't stop at anything to achieve his goal. He warns Noah to be careful while dealing with him. When a maid comes there to tell him that there is an injured man at their gate, Noah decides to see what is going on, and finds a badly injured knight, who kneels before him and says that a rebellion has started in Almeria. He claims that his superior is involved in the rebellion as well, but he did not follow him, and instead came here to report to the prince. Alan thinks that the knight risked his life for nothing because they already know about the rebellion, but Noah thanks the knight and orders his maid to treat his injuries. He starts walking away, but then turns back and orders to give the knight $1,000 in reward. Alan follows after him, asking why is he burning his money by rewarding the knight for information that he already had. Noah replies that he is not rewarding the knight for his information, but for his loyalty and bravery. Later that night, Zoe enters Noah's office, looking extremely distressed. She collapses to the ground before saying anything, and Noah asks her what is wrong with her. Zoe first offers him a pouch containing $500 and then a small bottle. She says that an unknown man offered her this reward to make him drink the sleeping medicine and then hand him over to them. Noah realizes that the rebels want him at all costs, and they are more desperate than the hot single mothers in my area that have posted their ads on all the websites. He asks Zoe why did she bring the bottle to him, and she starts crying. She claims that the men told her they would kill her if she failed to drug Noah, but she cannot betray him ever. Noah silently walks to his desk and writes a check of $5,000 for Zoe, telling her that this is her reward for not selling her loyalty for cheap. Zoe's head starts spinning at this amount, and she says that she cannot accept it. But Noah tells her to be a good girl and take the reward. She starts crying and thanking him, but Noah says that he needs her to do something for him. He tells her that he is going to drink the medicine and pass out, and then she is going to take him to the men who contacted her. He tells her to run away as soon as she hands him over so that they don't silence her. Zoe is terrified of the thought, but Noah has made up his mind to meet the desperate rebels. A few hours later, he wakes up in the middle of nowhere and overhears the kidnappers talk about how killing him is a last resort, and they need to keep him safe as per Karfun's orders. Noah allows the drug to wear off completely before assessing his situation and finds that his hands and legs are tied. However, the rebels would suck at playing search and destroy, because they didn't realize Noah was hiding Leviathan inside his ear instead of his ass this time. He takes it out and returns it to its normal size before using his magic ring to create a water blade to cut the rope tying him. Next, he decides to see what happened to him through the memories of his sword. He sees himself sitting unconscious in his office and Zoe running away as the rebels surround him. They decided to ignore her because getting Noah out of his mansion was top priority, and they brought him to an open carriage. With the recap complete, Noah gets ready to deal with the rebels who are taking a break around a campfire. The leader of the group gets pissed at whoever tied the knots, and then Noah jumps down with his sword. The bandits underestimate him and tell him to surrender nicely because his brother is not here to protect him this time. One of them takes out his sword to beat Noah and recapture him. But he can't even take a step forward before Noah charges at him and splits open all the veins and arteries in his neck. As the first rebel dies, the others get intimidated and Noah says that he wanted to get some information. But everyone here is an idiot who doesn't even know that it was not Henry who defeated the assassins. The rebels get ready to fight, but Noah smokes them all effortlessly. Just then, he sees Zoe leading a group of knights towards him and asks her what is she doing here. Zoe tells him that she got worried about him and brought the knights to save him. But there was no need for that as all of the rebels are already defeated. Noah calls forward the captain of the knights and tells him to take away the rebels. One of the rebels drops a weird-looking dagger, and a knight is about to pick it up. But Noah senses something is wrong and immediately tells him to stop. He orders everyone to get back as he steps towards the dagger that is emitting a strong cursed energy that he can sense because of his mastery over Leviathan. He faintly remembers the rebels talking about the cursed dagger that they would use to kill him if things went south. He can sense the hatred of the man who put the curse on the dagger. And for a brief moment he sees his face too. Noah immediately recognizes him as the leader of the rebels and decides to deal with him personally. He talks to Leviathan, asking if it can help him execute his plan because it would be pretty easy for a legendary water element sword like it. Leviathan glows to give a positive answer and Noah channels its cursed energy to shoot a stream of cursed water towards the sky. The cursed stream goes high above the clouds and halfway across the empire, reaching Carfun and hitting him. The next day, the Emperor summons Noah again and kneels down to his level to pat his shoulders for the extraordinary feat he just accomplished. He got the report that the leader of the rebels was found dead with a hole right in the middle of his forehead that was created by a water jet, and he knows that no one else but Noah could have done it. Noah affirms, saying that he used the hatred in the cursed dagger to lock in on the rebel leader and then did a no-scope headshot on him from hundreds of miles away. Once the rebels lose their leader, it is an easy-peasy task for Henry to suppress them. And soon, all the people behind it are arrested. A huge assembly is called to decide their punishment, and the Emperor orders the culprits to be drawn and quartered. And you can just look what that means on Google. Everyone is happy at the punishment given to the rebels, but then Noah steps forward and respectfully kneels before the Emperor, telling him that he should not do that. Everyone is taken aback on hearing that, especially the Emperor, who asks what he means. Noah says that everyone should be punished according to the law, and there is no mention of executing anyone by quartering them. The rebel leaders are to be split in half, and the rest of the people are sent to Gulag according to the law, and Noah insists that they should follow it. The Emperor asks how can he refuse the most brutal way to die for the people who rebelled in his territory. And Noah simply replies that if the Emperor breaks the law, it will have a negative effect on his reputation and the people. Everyone is left speechless on hearing this, but the Emperor decides to go along with what Noah wants. He says that they will follow the law, but then adds that he wants the criminals to receive the maximum punishment as the law allows without any mercy. Noah has no problem with that, and the Emperor orders the Prime Minister to make sure that the law is followed in punishing the rebels. The entire court starts praising Noah for standing up to the Emperor so boldly and correcting his mistake, and they begin glazing him as a future legend. Even the Emperor is proud that Noah stood up to him, and he decides to reward him for stopping him from breaking the law. He thinks for a while, and then decides to reward Noah with a title. The Emperor claims that while any of his kids can stand up to him, it is a different thing if they do it for the right reason. Noah did just that and showed how clever and brave he was to the entire court. That is why the Emperor awards him the title of the Wise Prince, and the change is immediately reflected in Noah's status window. The Emperor even goes as far as to say that if Noah had been born a decade ago, it would have been even better. But he doesn't clearly say that he would have been a contender to the throne. The court suddenly starts cheering for Noah on hearing that statement. And then the Emperor asks him about the preparations for the upcoming knight selection exam. Noah asks for permission to share his plans later, and the emperor affirms. After the court proceedings are over, they go to a fountain area, where Noah begins sipping tea while 4 servants surround him with water buckets in their hand. On Noah's signal, they try to splash him and get him wet. But Noah simply uses the shield in his ring to stop their attacks. The emperor doesn't understand what that means, so Noah tells him that he is going to ask all the participants to attack him like this and judge their skill on the basis of how close their attack gets to him. The emperor is impressed by this innovative way, but he thinks that there are risks involved in this method. Noah confidently declares that he will deal with anyone strong enough to break through his defenses, and the emperor is once again impressed by him. Later that night, the emperor goes to the throne room with the prime minister, who thinks that his remark that things would be different if Noah had been born earlier was unnecessary in front of the crowd. The emperor just laughs about it, saying that he meant it, because Noah is truly special. However, he is also a bit concerned because of the tremendous power of Leviathan. Despite the fact that its true power is still sealed, he orders his servant to bring out a special treasure, thinking that it is said that Leviathan's true seal must never be broken. But maybe Noah can control the full power of the legendary sword. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.